everybody. Thank you very much. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to this classic movie review. This is my review of Kiss Me Deadly, a black and white film noir from 1955. This movie was directed by Robert Aldrich, who directed one of my favorite Lee Marvin movies, The Dirty Dozen. Great movie, and I have a review of that movie on my channel if you want to check it out. This movie stars Ralph Meeker. Um, you got Maxine Cooper, Gaby Rogers, Cloris Leachman, and Albert Decker. The film begins with our main character, Mike Hammer, played by um, Ralph Meeker, and he's driving along at night. It's a dark road in a dark night, and he spots a woman by herself alongside the road in a trench coat. And this turns out to be the character of Christina, played by Cloris Leachman. And pretty soon, he's interrupted by some thugs. The last time that we saw Christina, the last glimpse that Mike gets of her is her being tortured by some bad guys. And the last thing that she says to Mike that he can remember when he ends up in the hospital that night are the words, "Remember me." And so Mike decides that there's got to be a lot to this murder because of the mysterious circumstances surrounding it. And since he is a private investigator after all, this becomes his next case. And this is a very ahead of its time black and white 50s film. As Mike goes through his investigation, we meet many characters along the way, and some of the performances from some of these smaller character actors aren't all that great, in all honesty. There are some performances in the film that feel pretty strong, and there are some performances as far as a lot of the smaller parts that aren't as good, in my opinion. I think that this movie still holds up because it has a very strong narrative, and of course there are some, iconic scenes in this movie that are, to this day very entertaining. But like I said, there are some of the smaller roles, some of the smaller performances from certain actors that are a little on the corny side. Maybe that's due to the nature of the dialogue. You got a lot of that, 50s quick dialogue that is a bit cartoony at times. There's one scene where I swear it felt like it was right out of a cartoon. The way these people were talking reminded me of like something out of Batman the animated series. But you kind of keep watching the movie, and then eventually you realize it's the style of the film. It's going for that old school, noir, classic vibe, and so after a while, it kind of just washed over me and just let it soak in. And then I come to realize that this world is batshit crazy once you get to the final moments of the movie. This is not the kind of movie that is predictable if you think that this is going to be just a very kind of run-of-the-mill detective movie type of thing. There are some twists and turns in this movie, which is always a great surprise for any film viewer. The character of Mike Hammer is a badass, and at the same time is a guy that can get beat up. So it is a pretty cool character because he's not invincible. He's just a regular guy trying to find out what happened to this woman that he tried to basically save on the night that she died. In Mike's investigation of the death of Christine, he does come across all kinds of sinister types and eventually does ruffle a few feathers to the point where he has bad guys going after him. And as I said, Mike is a complete and total badass. It's really cool to see him kind of surveying the city, going through different little nightclubs, different spots, and trying to talk to certain people, get bits of information out of certain people. And then of course the unexpected moments of violence, which always kind of come as a surprise given how this is a movie from the mid 50s. And violence in the 50s was done in Hollywood films in certain ways where they didn't try to show too much. That's why this watching this movie, you get the impression that this was definitely not a Hollywood production, because there's one moment where there's a guy that gets crushed by a car that's on a jack, and it's a completely unexpected moment that took me by surprise. So when I saw this, I thought this is pretty violent for a 50s movie. It could almost pass for a 60s film, since violence in cinema was kind of increasing in the 60s. And so this movie is pretty ahead of its time in those aspects. So as Mike keeps investigating, he also comes across the character of Lily, played by Gaby Rogers. And Lily was the victim's roommate. And this is a very meek, kind of mousy character who you can tell is trying not to say too much. You can tell this character knows a little bit more than they're hinting at. But it's a very good performance. As the investigation goes on, Mike finds himself in a series of dangerous situations. And there's one moment where he's being interrogated and tortured by one of the villains of the film. And it's a very surprising moment that I did not expect to see because it involves sodium pentothal. And for those of you that have seen a lot of action movies, maybe in the 80s or 90s, we know that that's something that they use to extract information from anybody, and it kind of gives you supposed to give you brain damage. That's something that I heard in a lot of movies. I don't know if it's true or not, but they give this stuff to Mike, and it's kind of comical when he's laying in bed face down, and they're expecting him to reveal a bunch of truth because it's supposed to make him fall asleep, and then in his sleep, the idea is he's going to start answering questions, and it all sounds muffled when he talks, so somehow uh, they're getting information out of him, even though as the viewer, it's like, what the hell is he saying? It's kind of an inadvertently comedic moment, in my opinion. But you still feel that Mike is in danger, even though, he's kind of trying to talk and, it's all muffled. You still get a sense of this guy is in trouble. I mean, he is tied down to a bed, face down. Something else that surprised me when I watched this film was the fact that this is a movie that came out in 1955. And if you watch a lot of 50s movies, you see that if you watch these old movies, and if there are any African American actors in the movie, usually they're relegated to certain roles that are, like the stereotypes of the time. And something that was very refreshing about watching this is there are scenes where Mike goes into like a bar or he goes into like a boxing gym. And there are many Hollywood movies that came out around this time where characters are going to places like this and you would still see nothing but all white faces. Maybe one or two faces of African Americans, but yeah, there are entire scenes in this movie where Mike is just surrounded by African Americans in the room. When Mike goes into the boxing gym, there's an old trainer, a boxing trainer, who's talking about this prospect of his, and we has this little chat with him, and you see that as they have this conversation, Mike definitely talks to this guy like an equal, and that's something that you don't see that often in some of these old movies. Just like in the scene where he goes into the bar, he seems to get along with everybody in the bar and he chats with the bartender. Mike is kind of a progressive 1950s character, and you also get that in the scene where Mike goes into the all black bar. You see that he probably feels more comfortable at this place, and when he chats with the bartender, it's like he's speaking to an equal, not like he's talking to a anybody who's like supposed to be subservient or anything. He even asks him to have a drink with him. So yeah, this movie has some unexpected moments that completely surprised me when I watched this for the first time, given all the stuff that you're kind of used to watching in older films. And then, of course, there's the big mystery of the movie, an object that Mike finds out about after talking to the Gabby Rogers character, the Lily character, who puts him onto this mysterious box that everybody is trying to find and maybe the reason behind Christine's death. And nobody knows what's inside the box. Nobody is giving any information about it. It's a very mysterious kind of MacGuffin. And in the third act of the movie, everything kind of goes batshit bonkers crazy to the point where you're not gonna know exactly what genre we're in, what kind of territory we're in. All I'm gonna say, because I don't want to spoil, is that this movie crosses genres. It is not just a straightforward film noir. Because there are a couple of moments in the film where some of the supporting cast does kind of a subpar job compared to the rest of the cast, this would definitely be a 4-star masterpiece in my opinion. But I give this movie 3.5 stars, and it's a great piece of entertainment. This is a movie that I highly recommend. This is a movie that is very exciting for its time, very unexpected twists and turns, as I've already said, and some great acting from Ralph Meeker in the role of Mike Hammer. And it's a fun mystery. Kiss Me Deadly is a movie that you should definitely check out. It's a movie that I think you can find on streaming because I've come across it on Tubi once or twice. But hard copies are out there, and you want to get these hard copies before they're all gone. They're going to be all extinct, before you know it. So, yeah, that's Ralph Meeker there, Maxine Cooper, secretary slash confidant. And as you can see, there's some flames in the background, sort of give you an idea of what kind of movie this is going to be. And yeah, this is a badass 1955 film. Kiss Me Deadly from director Robert Aldrich. Must see classic. If you're into this kind of thing and if you're into classic movies, hit that bell and become a subscriber. And don't forget to comment and share. And if you like the video, don't forget to leave a like and look out for the next classic movie review. Thank you all very much, and I appreciate your support. Take care of each other, and God bless. Peace out.